Hey guys, so today I want to break down Brian Page's BNB Formula. It's an 8-week masterclass that pushes the idea of Airbnb success without having to actually own any property. So Brian actually uses the rental arbitrage business model and puts his own spin on things to promote his course. So the idea is to basically lease a property long term, then list it on Airbnb to watch the cash roll in. But don't let the allure blind you guys to the ugly truth here. First off, there's a really high risk of operating at a loss, which basically means that subleasing really isn't a sure bet, a lot of the times leaving you stuck with the bill for the rental and outsourcing costs. And speaking of outsourcing, it's highly suggested to do this to save yourself from drowning in everyday tasks. Without it, keeping up with your rental becomes more of a time-consuming job than a moneymaker. Factor in maintenance and repairs, not to mention the unexpected and costly hassles you have to deal with when you're playing landlord without the property title. And here's the worst part. Convincing landlords to go along with it. It's very tricky, especially with the increasing legal obstacles you have to deal with that come with its increasing popularity. So also legislation and clauses restricting subleasing are also becoming very common, which rules like this can lead to a quick eviction, guys. And really just finding the right location, one without legal roadblocks and landlord headaches, is also just not an easy thing to find. That, along with the price tag on Brian's course, is just something you want to think twice about before shelling out what could be a really overpriced investment. So as we enter 2024, is the BNB Formula, or even rental arbitrage itself, a worthwhile method for making passive income? The idea of financial freedom can be tempting for sure, but the endless risks and hurdles when it comes to rental arbitrage are enough for most to skip out on. So before diving in, let's weigh whether that dream is worth the challenges that you'll run into along the way. If you guys want to learn more about my #1 recommendation for making money online, please visit the link in the description below. And just a quick disclaimer here, guys, this video is all about Brian Page and his BNB Formula, but let me say I have absolutely no affiliation with him or any of his programs. This is just my honest opinion based on what I found through hours and hours of gathering research, so you don't have to. Having said that, let's jump right into today's video. So first, let's take a closer look at Brian's BNB training itself. So from what I found inside the program, it seems to cover the basics of running an Airbnb business over 8 weeks, everything from planning to automation. But there is a big hole here that I found. It really seems like the basics are not detailed enough to even give students a baseline, and can also just be found online with a quick Google search, according to one review that I saw. And the cost, it is a modest $2,000 to join for the 8-week training, but the big caveat here is that I found a lot of students online that claim that there's a lot more of a learning curve to rental arbitrage than the course leads on. They did claim that there were a couple of extra upsells pushed on them, like more services to buy, and that it all just felt a little bit pushy. More student reviews on Trustpilot tell a deeper story of disappointment as well. Some do say that promises were not kept, and weekly coaching calls felt more like a ghost town more than actual training. Others are really just expressing a lot of regret about wasting their money up front for the course without seeing any real results. And let's not forget about the refund policy, or apparent lack thereof. A lot of students warn about the tricky refund tactics that Brian's team holds against anyone looking to go back on their deal. So really, to sum it up, the BNB Formula isn't hitting the mark for many of its students, leaving them with a huge sense of buyer's guilt. And I know it definitely left me questioning if the course is worth the cost. So I know a $2,000 investment might not be a big deal for some, but when people warn you that you can find a lot of this stuff for free online, it definitely starts to feel like pure money wasted. And with all of these negative online reviews piling up, it does start to seem like Brian needs to make some really big changes to his BNB Formula. Also, something to point out, BNB Formula has been having a hard time keeping scammers from using its name to get one up on people, and it's actually causing a lot of damage to the program's reputation. On top of that, there's a big problem with consumer fraud connected to the BNB Formula course. Basically, you can find these posts that are really shady looking online, praising the course or offering discounts through certain links, but when you click on them, they take you to really unofficial shady websites, setting the stage for them to prey on you. And many would-be students have fallen victim to these scams, eventually losing all of their money and shunning the course in return. With scammers using the BNB Formula name to fool people who are already skeptical about trying such an expensive business model, it only adds fuel to the fire. And not to mention, these scams don't just take money from potential students, they also make people question whether or not the BNB course is trustworthy itself. So to me, it seems like the red flags keep piling up that leave students caught in the crossfire, from student complaints about the course to its reputation being mixed up with these schemes. So the BNB formula is not just dealing with scammers, as we can see, it's also facing problems with consumer fraud controversies. And to me, this really just eats away at the trust that any good real estate course or platform should have. It's really just a warning about the not so great side of some online courses, where the excitement of learning something new can be quickly replaced with a lot of regret. Lastly, jumping into the world of rental arbitrage might seem like a shortcut to real estate success, but let's peel back the layers and face the harsh realities landlords fear. First on the list is location. A lot of landlords may not go for it if they don't see the area as a prime spot for short-term rentals, and usually convincing them involves a consistent rent check backed by your research on the area's profitability. Then there's the neighbor factor. Some communities frown upon short-term rentals just due to security reasons. So reassuring your landlord means putting some strict rules in place to make sure your guests don't disrupt or really cause any issues that may fall back on you. Budgeting is another thing to consider. Since you foot the bill for furnishing the property, a lot of landlords may worry about the quality suffering due to slim profit margins. So really, your pitch needs to emphasize your motivation and commitment as a high-quality renter and investor. So next up is the maintenance and repair dilemma. More guests inevitably mean more wear and tear, and this means that landlords will definitely want your word that you'll keep the property in top shape. And it could also be a good idea to mention that Airbnb has a $1 million insurance policy, and you do have the option to get short-term rental insurance for a low monthly cost with the owner as the beneficiary. But here's where the risks get really tricky. Hitting no cash flow months because of seasonal fluctuations in short-term rentals is a real threat for many. If you can't keep your rental wheels turning by booking more guests, you're automatically in the red here. And there's other unexpected damages that can happen, utility costs and extra housing costs that can really drain your pockets faster than expected. And let's not forget regulation obstacles here, guys. Some markets flat out ban short-term renting, and more are just tightening restrictions every day. So when your contract with the landlord expires without renewal, there's a good chance that your rental arbitrage business goes up in smoke with it. Simply put, in the world of rental arbitrage, success is not guaranteed, and the risks are more than just numbers on paper. They're potential pitfalls that can definitely leave you counting losses instead of profits. So Brian Page's BNB formula and the rental arbitrage business model seem to have some serious issues at the end of the day. The course is really expensive for a lot of students based on the value that they get, and a lot of students feel like they're being pressured into buying extra upsells. Reviews also say the promises made aren't being kept, and a lot of people are spending money without seeing good results. On top of that, scammers are using the BNB formula name to trick people constantly left and right, and this really just hurts the course's reputation and causes problems for honest entrepreneurs who are getting caught up in these scams. So looking at the rental arbitrage as a business model, it's not as great as it might seem and is really getting worse as the years pass. You have to constantly worry about things like location, neighbors, budgets, and property upkeep. There are also risks of losing money and running into legal problems, not to mention the direction of our housing market today. When you look at the numbers, you'll see that Airbnb listing revenues are down by almost 50% in big cities like Phoenix and Denver, and this could really mean bad news for a lot of smaller cities too, including yours. So, once you're out, there are other business models out there that will make you the passive income you want without the headaches of traditional real estate. Take local lead generation, for example. You build digital properties like websites that bring in traffic for local businesses who need the leads. There's no big upfront costs, no dealing with landlords and constant property hassles, and no competition breathing down your neck. It's a much safer and more profitable choice compared to the downfalls of rental arbitrage by a landslide. So, in a nutshell, if you're looking to make money online with much less risk and more profit potential, local lead generation is definitely the way to go. So, for more information on my #1 recommendation for making money online, please visit the link in the description below.